Yes, hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day and welcome back. We are a little bit early today because we have an amazing event coming up this afternoon that your boy will be attending. And so before we jump into the business on the day, let's make sure the tubes have connected themselves all across the fruited plain of the interwebs as we count down to Election Day. 4 days, 13 hours, 58 minutes, and counting. And so, my friends, I hope you're voting. Hope you're voting extra hard, like you really mean it. And when you put that ballot in that ballot drop box, or when you go fill out that bubble, you let them know you mean it. And get those ballots in because the clock is ticking away. And so, very excited that you're here and with us. Welcome back. It's a beautiful Thursday. You know what that means. Tomorrow is a Friday. We're doing an early show today because your boy's going to be hanging out with Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump, the president. Well, we'll be in the same room later today. So very excited about that. They're going to be here in Glendale, Arizona, doing I believe it's actually officially a fundraiser for the victims of the hurricane, but Tucker will be there. Trump will be there. Your boy will be there in, the seats, but it's going to be amazing. And so if you're out there, certainly we'll look forward to seeing you out there, but that's taking place. I'm going to go join some friends for an early dinner, and then we'll be there most of the rest of the night. And so we're going to be making Arizona great again. And it'll be very fun to have you here. So keep that energy up, my friends. Make sure you're talking to your friends. Get everybody out to the polls. And you might have friends out there, okay, I'm running into this. You might have friends who are saying, hey, is it too late right now? Is it too late for me to get out there and vote? And it might be, it depends on your state, but it might not be, okay? I'm telling my friends, and no, fill it out. Just don't put it in the mail now. Just go drop it off because it's a little late to put in the mail. So go drop it off, all right? Because now it's time. So make sure you're staying engaged, my friends. This is crunch time. We have to keep our energies up. Thank you for this public message. All right, now today, what are we talking about? We got a bunch of stuff cooking in Pennsylvania, and you probably saw the title on the show today, which is asking a question about 20,000 missing ballots, which is a big number. This is an interesting one, all right? This is a lawsuit brought by the Democrats against the Erie County Board of Elections. I don't know the political makeup of the Board of Elections, but the Democrats are suing on this, and they're raising a pretty interesting issue, okay? There actually is a big problem, and I don't know that this necessarily serves the Democrats one way or another because the county that they're suing is super close. Now, obviously, mail-in votes are going to trend at Democrats, so that's going to give them a benefit, which is why they're very irritated about this. But this is a big problem regardless. If we're talking about 20,000 missing ballots in Pennsylvania, that's a big problem. And it's in Erie County, which, as you can see, last time in 2020 was 49.8% to 48.8%. Okay, a 1 percentage point difference on that. So 20,000 missing votes in that particular county is a pretty big problem. So we'll see what is happening in this lawsuit, but there's more because the Republicans are also appealing to the Supreme Court. You remember earlier this week, we talked about Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, and how they took the DOJ's lawsuit against them to put non-citizens back on the voting rolls, how they took that up to the Court of Appeals, lost there, then appealed to the Supreme Court and won, in a 6-3 relief. As far as we know, it was 6-3, and granting the stay, which means that the non-citizens will not be on the Virginia voting rolls. So now what has happened is Pennsylvania has said, well, okay, so we have to take this up to the Supreme Court, and they are now doing that. Now, this is another county in Pennsylvania, which also had some problems when the Secret Service almost got Trump shot in the head and killed. He was shot in the head, in the ear, which is attached to the head. Butler County Board of Elections is now involved in this litigation. Remember Butler quite well. And this is being appealed to the Supreme Court because they're saying you can't count improperly dated ballots. Okay, this is the whole point of making sure that the dates count, is to make sure they matter so that we don't have ballots coming in after the deadline. And so this has been a victorious situation for the Democrats thus far, but the Republicans and others are appealing this to the United States Supreme Court, and they're asking for an emergency stay. We just got one granted from the Supreme Court, and this is on the final hour of the election. So Supreme Court business coming up, and we'll see what's happening there. A lot of interest on this one. Bunch of people filing in their amicus briefs. You can see everything comes skidding in here to the Supreme Court, crash cars piling up. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll follow up on Griswold. Man, she was extra crazy-eyed yesterday. If you missed that stream or that segment, that was fun because she was getting obliterated by this fella called Kyle, who was reporting for 9 News and was asking her all sorts of questions, mostly sounding like, how dare you, and are you going to resign? And she was not happy about it. It was a lot of fun. But it's even worse than we thought because those passwords were online. They knew they were online, and they left them online before they changed anything. And so there's even more details on how bad this was. So there is this affidavit that's now flying around, which explains the mechanics of how these passwords were hidden. And they're not very sophisticated, obviously, because this fella found him, and he explains how he found him and how he unhid the tabs like a super 4chan hacker, man, just understanding binary code, seeing the matrix, just right clicking and pressing unhide, and poof, there's the truth. So all that is coming up. We'll see what he says. And then Colorado House Republicans have now come out with a statement, and they're demanding that Crazy Eyes Griswold resign. They call for her resignation after she leaked the passwords and then refused to answer questions about it. And Colorado's not happy. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll jump up to Washington because the FBI is continuing to investigate those burned ballots in those drop boxes that were set aflame. And apparently there was some incident or some reporting that this was related to Gaza. So apparently the incendiary devices said free Gaza on them. All right. So free Gaza's torching ballots or something. That was in this article, as we see. And similarly in Washington, this woman got 16 ballots delivered to her apartment address, even though there aren't 16 voters who live there. Oops. So big problems. And then this fella over in California, and I'd love to hear from you guys if you're seeing this, if you're confirming this or not, if you're voted in California. When you go in there, do you have to press the down button in order to get to Trump? Do you have to like click down? You go, I want to vote for Trump. They put Kamala front and center, first and foremost, RFK, who's not even running anymore, then these 2 other people, and then you have to click down for Trump. Is that happening out there? And anybody who's ever designed a landing page or written a marketing letter or email knows what a big problem that is, right? To have to, in order to convert things. Even the news media knows that. It's called above the fold, right? They don't do that. So I wonder if that's happening out there. This guy's reporting it. I'm not doubting him. I guess my question is, I'm wondering if these are randomized. Like, is Kamala for some other voter going to be underneath the fold? Let me know. Drop your thoughts and let us all know. We're all curious. And then we've got a couple of other updates. We've got Rogan. Of course, they censored Rogan and Trump because it was a great conversation. And if you missed that, highly recommended. But now Congress is investigating. Jim Jordan and the House Judiciary Committee, they sent a letter over to Google CEO. They say, why are you censoring these stories? And we tried to recreate it here. We looked at it. I looked it up. Hey, can try to find it. Can't find it. They bury Joe Rogan. They'd rather have you watch clips of the mainstream media talking about Rogan than have you actually just watch Trump on Rogan because those are their friends. Rogan is not. Now, we've also got that. Here's the letter. We'll take a look at that. And then if we have time, and we should, we have this story, which is also very interesting. And so the Apprentice, remember that show? The alumni are now out and they're supporting Trump. There was a smear from a bunch of other, apparently, alumni who came out and supported Kamala Harris. And so the Trump Apprentice folks, 11 alumni, responded to the Kamala Harris Apprentice people. And so they're now out. And we are working on speaking with Miss Kendra Todd, the winner of season 3, who actually is leading the charge here and has helped to draft the letter. And so we have been exchanging some text messages back and forth, and we'll see if we can get her on tomorrow or on Saturday, depending on her schedule, to discuss some of this stuff with us, because they know Trump well. She won season 3, and now they're defending the president and sent a letter in that vein. And so we'll take a look at the letter today. You can see here's what it looks like in support of President Trump, and we'll go through it. Now, this is the other letter. These are from the other people. Now, I have another statement from Kendra and the people who are supporting the president. So all of this is happening fast over here on my end. I just got introduced to her, so we'll be coordinating that. But interesting story. So we're glad to see that some of the other people who worked with the president are out there supporting him, and we're going to get the full story here on the channel. So, my friends, very exciting day to be here. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for joining us early. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully and you're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to. Reminder, we got amazing shirts out there from our friends at 2A Republic. Here's what they look like, but that's upside down. So here's what they look like when you put them on correctly. My friends at the 2A Republic, when you get a shirt, there's Trump shirts. When you get a shirt, it's going to be delivered in a beautiful box that looks just like this. And when you open it up, you can see some amazingness right inside. Shall not be infringed, and our beautiful Second Amendment inside. So if you're looking for gifts for the holiday season, if you got birthdays or other things coming up, grab a shirt. And I think we are actually sold out of some sizes. So today is going to be, I believe, the very, very last day to get a shirt before the election. They're sending them out like mad. So you should be getting them, and hopefully you're enjoying them. I'm going to be wearing my Trump shirt today at the event, and I'm going to be beaming with MAGA greatness, baby. It's going to be amazing. All right, so thanks for grabbing a shirt and checking out the link in the description below. 2A Republic is where you can go. All right, so my friends, let's get to it. Yeah, I already bought all the schmediums, okay? There are no more schmediums, all right? They're all mine. I have a whole closet full of them, all right? So just sorry about that. They're custom made. I make them shrink the biceps so I can feel more masculine. All right, let's get to it. We've got some business to attend to. 20,000 missing votes in Pennsylvania. That's what the Democrats are hinting at. And this is a curious one because it comes out of Erie County in Pennsylvania, which is a very 50-50 county. It's not like a Democrat mega county where you'd expect the Democrats to want to go scrounge around for votes. It's a 50-50 split, and it's saying that the U.S. Postal Service and a third-party vendor who's supposed to be processing a lot of these ballots and managing these systems has done goofed bigly. And I don't care what party is not getting ballots. Ballots should be handled appropriately and not missing in the Postal Service, not being filled out and intercepted and returned by who knows who before they even get to the voters, as is happening in Colorado. And so what we're watching here is just episode after episode of failures and breakdowns of the system, which of course have been happening for a long time now. But here the Democrats are suing. They're suing the Erie County Board of Elections. And as I mentioned, Erie is right here in Pennsylvania, not too far away from Butler, which is right here. So Butler is where the Trump assassination took place. You can see in this county in 2020, it was 65-33 in favor of President Trump. Erie County, much closer, 49.8% to 48.8%. So it's like a 50-50 county, basically. And the total number of votes, probably something like 140,000-ish. And if the margin, if we're talking about 10 to 20,000 votes that are now maybe missing out of that bucket, that's a pretty big number. So we'll go through that and see how the numbers align. But that is the region that we're looking at. And you can just see how red Pennsylvania is, minus Philly, basically. Philly and Pittsburgh are the two big locations that will gobble up all the Democrat city liberal votes like they like. So here is what the lawsuit looks like. It's a big problem in Pennsylvania if this is true. They tell us that this is an action seeking to enforce the election code to ensure that registered Pennsylvania voters may vote. The complaint seeks mandamus relief, enforcing Erie County Board of Elections to comply with the election code, which I'm sure they're already trying to do, right? But they're failing at this. And we also have to be cognizant when the Democrats file lawsuits, sometimes it feels like it's adversarial because we're used to it being adversarial. We're brainwashed to think that, oh, this little verses right here. Oh, it means like verses. It's like they're like going to war against each other. So they're very upset with each other. But oftentimes that's not the case. In fact, many times it's not the case. What they'll do is there'll be a lawsuit and then they come to a settlement agreement. They're two friendly parties that just need an excuse to come to a settlement. And then in that settlement, they'll say, oh, it's enforceable. And then everybody else is bound by that settlement. And in the settlement, they'll make terms, they'll change the terms and say we're bound. Everybody's bound because we agreed basically in a contract with somebody else. So they look like they're adversarial, but they're really not. It's just two parties playing patty cake with one another so that they can change the rules. They find a problem, they use an excuse, that problem as an excuse to suddenly come to new terms and then shift all the rules around, which is what happened during COVID. So we're having flashbacks again to 2020. So here is the actual complaint saying everybody needs to vote. Now, the Board of Elections has encountered numerous issues related to the mail-in voting process as a result of failures of one of its vendors. And as we go through this, just have the subtext in your mind. What if we didn't have mail-in voting? Well, there wouldn't be problems with vendors. There wouldn't be numerous issues. We wouldn't have label printing problems in Wisconsin, intercepted ballots in Colorado, and a multitude of problems in Georgia that they're not even responding to requests for information on. They won't allow hand counts. They tried, the DOJ, to put non-citizens on the rolls, right? It's happening everywhere we look. So just keep that in our minds when we talk about mail-in voting. We could eliminate a lot of these problems by just getting rid of it. So they reference this news article and they attach it. And I did pull that news article up because here's what it says. They say, look, there's news reporting on this from Erie Times in Pennsylvania. It says, your mail-in ballot still hasn't arrived. This came in 2 days ago, October 29th. We're like, and I don't care what if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if our government says that they're going to mail you a ballot, they better do it because that's your vote. And if you're expecting it, they better do it. And I get so tired of the government. Well, we're just incompetent, so you just should excuse us. Well, you have claimed competence and you've rolled out all of these programs claiming that you can manage them appropriately without undermining the integrity of the election. Now we're showing you they don't work and you're still doing them. So now it's October 29th and a bunch of people aren't getting their ballots, allegedly, according to this news article from Go Erie. It says the Go Erie Board of Elections and Voter Registration Office continues to work with the Pennsylvania Department of State and Josh Shapiro's office and the U.S. Postal Service and its third-party vendor called Election IQ, right? So we're not even running the elections. Third-party companies are. The same thing happened in Arizona with a company called Runbeck. And then we're like, can we get your records, Runbeck, since you managed our elections, you facilitated the processing of them? No, you can't have them. Why not? Well, because FOIA and information requests only apply to public entities. They don't apply to private entities that are contracted out. Oh, so they can do whatever they want essentially with no oversight by the public? Yeah, basically. Welcome to America. So they're doing the same thing. So Election IQ is also saying they're having problems trying to determine the status of mail-in ballots that have not been delivered to voters. Erie County Clerk called Karen Chilcott on Monday provided potential remedies for people who are concerned they're not going to get their ballot in time. Mail-in ballots must be received by the office by the deadline, 8 p.m. Tuesday on election night. But what do you do if you haven't received your ballot? Well, you can email, request that the mail-in ballot be canceled and get a new ballot via express mail. Then the ballot would be sent directly to the voter registration office instead of Election IQ, which handles the printing. However, this request must be made by the end of the day 2 days ago, which is the deadline to request a mail-in ballot. So it's not good. You can see here's Karen Chilcott. She stands outside the office. They've been flooded with calls, and in some cases, the call volume overwhelms the phone system, and some callers are being disconnected. Employees are not hanging up on callers, they said. Yeah, right. Anyone who intends to vote early Tuesday should prepare to wait for several hours. Great job. Bring a snack, bring something to drink, and even a book. Going with another person is also advised, so you have someone to hold your place in line if you need to use the restroom. What? They're not standing in line at like Disneyland. What? Some Erie mail-in ballots were also sent to the wrong post office. Last week, the county learned that 2 bins of mail-in ballots had been dropped off at a U.S. Postal Service processing facility in Pittsburgh, but were then sent to the wrong post office. However, Chilcott said on Monday, she's concerned more ballots might have even been affected. The Postal Service error followed an October 18th discovery that Election IQ had mistakenly sent duplicate mail-in ballots to wrong voters. Oh. Chilcott has more meetings Tuesday with state officials. Great. So that's the report that they reference in the complaint. They also reference another one from WPXI. It says nearly 300 duplicate ballots incorrectly sent. They say upon information and belief here, the Democrats are saying to the election board, it appears that the post office has been unable to account for approximately 1,800 ballots. Just in one little incident. This is one minor microcosm of problems. 1,800 just in this one incident, in one location, Pennsylvania, one state, one thing we know about. Upon information and belief, they say, it appears that 10,000 to 20,000 voters who requested mail-in ballots have not received or submitted those ballots. Now, the Democrats might say, right, mail-in ballots have a higher propensity to be Democrat-ick. And ick is right. But they are not getting their ballots, right? So they are then, or even Republicans. I mean, it's a 50-50 county. So even if it's only in that one county, right, you presume maybe half those are Trump voters too. So, and either way, right, I want everybody to get their ballots. If the government makes a contractual promise, they're going to send the ballots out, not miss 1,800. Further, upon information and belief, over 300 voters received 2 mail-in ballots, one of which may not have correlated to the local races. So it's a free-for-all. These vendors, just handing out ballots over there. Hey, here you go. These vendors these vendor issues have caused registered voters substantial delays and hardships in casting ballots, potentially violating the right to vote of numerous electors. With one week away from the election, the Board of Elections has not yet properly even addressed these issues, and they threaten to disenfranchise thousands. Further, the board is apparently providing inaccurate information to voters about options that they can use to remedy these things, and so we seek injunctive relief to force them and to ensure that all effective voters may exercise their fundamental right to vote. Okay, so this is where you shoehorn in whatever you can. Right? Injunctive relief precisely tailored to ensure that everybody can vote. So now they're saying, well, we've identified a bucket of 20,000 people. And so maybe after the election's over, they have now anchored this in, right? They're flagging this for future litigation. This is a problem. A bunch of people are disaffected. So when Trump wins Pennsylvania, they can come out. Trump wins by 10,000. They say, no, here's our bucket of 20,000 people who never got mail-in ballots. And so we should invalidate the election because it's greater than the margin of error. We're just anchoring these things in. They say, okay, the Pennsylvania Democratic Party is dedicated to, they say, improving, we'll say, wrecking the lives of their citizens. They're also coordinating the largest registration in Pennsylvania. They say, as of October 28th, they say 3.9 million registered voters are members of the Democratic Party. Gotta work on those numbers. In Erie County, Pennsylvania, 73,000 registered voters are members of the Democrats. The PDP is a major political party. We got significant resources that we've expended, and you've got jurisdiction over all of this. They say upon information and belief, the printed mail-in ballots were available for distribution prior to October 9th to deliver to them. Then the Board of Elections contracted with a vendor, an outside company who is basically not accountable, at least here in Arizona, to distribute the mail-in ballots. Now, upon information and belief, due to the vendor's various failures, wow. As of October 28th, 315 incorrect ballots were sent to registered voters in Erie County. Oops. At least some of these incorrect ballots listed candidates for Pennsylvania state house races applicable to different districts. So they crossed the ballot lines. The board has claimed that letters were sent to the voters affected, but the board has not been made aware of any voter having received such correspondence, nor has the board shared the correspondence. Now, they have not publicly released the names of the affected voters to ensure that the affected voters cast the correct ballot, and additionally, the vendors' failures, coupled with ongoing delays with the postal service, have caused substantial delays in delivering the mail-in ballots as well. So it's just, and you're wondering, it's very convenient that all this starts to happen right now. Right now, of course, we're voting here. Let's continue. Says the PDP has been made aware by its registered party members of numerous instances where a voter requested a mail-in ballot weeks ago but has still not received it. The board has not publicly released the names. As of October 28th, just days ago, 40,000 mail-in applications have been approved by Erie County. However, only 21,000 have returned. This amounts to a return rate of 52%, which is 15 percentage points below the state average of 67%, which is among the lowest in the Commonwealth. Okay, but it's not the lowest in the Commonwealth. So that doesn't mean it's even that aberrational. Other counties are also returning low. So I don't think you can take anything from that. In fact, I think that the fact that it's more 50-50 means you're probably going to be a lot less if they're not turning out for Kamala, for example. Further, upon information and belief, the Postal Service has no record of having received 1,800 mail-in ballots from its vendor. Stuff like that is just really problematic. Where'd they go? And is in the process of trying to locate these ballots. 1,800 people may not, what? At minimum, then, 1,800 voters' mail-in ballots have been lost and will not be delivered before the 2024 election. Insane. Upon information and belief, the Board of Elections, and remember, like, this is absolutely not supposed to happen. There's chain of custody. They're supposed to be documenting, I gave this to you, it's insecure stuff. We're seeing photographs of, trunks being left open and people just having boxes of ballots kind of hanging out for anyone to walk by and grab. They say, upon information and belief, through Erie County Clerk Karen Chilcott, she's advised voters that they may email the Erie County Voter Registration Office to request their mail-in ballot be canceled and get a new one by FedEx. However, voters must submit this cancellation request immediately, and that's already passed. And so assuming the voters did actually do this, their mail-in ballot would have been received yesterday, and further assuming that voters mail their ballots the same day, the timing is too late. It's one day after the deadline to mail the votes back. Given Erie's delays, such a remedy still threatens to disenfranchise voters whose mail-in ballots will not be received. And so we're saying we want you to force them to do something. They've declined to request our request to produce the names of the affected voters. So the Democrats want the names so they can go corroborate them and then turn out the vote for those people. Additionally, the Board of Elections has not set forth a clear mechanism to ensure that their votes are ultimately counted. And so they're going to cause people to be deprived of the right to vote. Denying relief would inflict greater injury. And so we're asking for these things. Immediately release the names of all the affected voters. Immediately release all correspondence to the affected voters. Agree to a process whereby they, with representatives, observe the opening of duplicate ballots to see who received them, right? Like all these things they want to look at, and they should. I mean, it's a disaster. Multiple ballots going out to multiple people, 1,800 ballots now missing. Vendors' failures and delays, as many as 19,000 approved mail-in ballots have not even been delivered. Great. In Erie County, requesting such ballots and other ballots were provided belatedly. So I didn't get mine. I have to go request it. Upon information and belief, the Board of Elections has not informed these voters of the delay, nor given them any guidance either way. In fact, the Board of Elections apparently is providing inaccurate information to the voters. Although the deadline for requesting the mail-in ballot was October 29th, all that's passed. Now, as of October 28th, only 21,000 ballots have returned. So I don't buy that as like a real problem. Okay, maybe the average statewide is 67%, but that might just be the natural order of things, right? You already admitted that other counties were lower than that. It's not the lowest. It's not even an aberration, right? It's within, like if you plot it all on a chart and all of the counties are like here, right? 67, 51, 52, 53. It's right in here. You just plot it out. It's not like way out here. It's not an aberration over here. It's right in the meat. Additionally, or maybe on the lower end of the bell curve, but it's not off the chart. So it's not, a statistical anomaly. Additionally, upon information and belief, 1,800 mail-in ballots sent by the vendor have been lost. That's insane. will not be delivered to the respective voters approved to receive them. Could you imagine if you lost $1,800? Hey, I need you to go deposit this at the bank, Rob. Oh, sure, boss. $1,800. Better not friggin' lose $1 of that, right? Going into the bank. Okay. 1,800 mail-in ballots. 1,800 people. Insane. These 1,800 voters will not receive mail-in ballots, and even if located, will not receive mail-in ballots in a timely manner. And this is just an allegation, okay? This is not fact, but this is their information and belief. I don't know where they're getting that from, but if it's true, that's a lot. Even if it's 100 mail-in ballots that are not getting delivered, and they were promised to be delivered by these so-called vendors, and our government says that everyone's going to be enfranchised, right? Why are certain people not? Requiring thousands of voters to submit provisional ballots on election day will place a heavy burden on the polling locations, and provisional ballots can be disqualified in different ways, and it's not clear that they've even planned for a surge of provisional ballots, and so they continue to cause the delay, and some people may not be voting. And so given the delays, adequate remedies must be put in place. They should aggregate all mail-in ballots, put them all in the polling book, establish firm hours, be directed to keep the place open. And they want to, the Democrats are like, we're running the election now. All right. See what I meant when I said they'll come to terms on this? So then the elections board will come out and they'll say, I mean, theoretically, I'm not saying I don't know the elections board's politics very well, or if this is a friendly lawsuit or how this will unfold, but it will. But my point is, it's a patty cake game. Then they come out and then the board could theoretically come back out. And this happened a bunch during COVID in Michigan and in Pennsylvania, where they come out and they say, oh my gosh, you're right. It's not our fault that 1,800 people aren't going to get ballots. It's the Postal Service's fault. And so now we do, right? And they blame the feds. And then, well, yeah, let's do everything we can to fix this. And so then they come to a settlement agreement, and then they give the Democratic Party control of the election. And as you can see, that's basically what the Democrats are demanding here in this complaint. And here, let's take a look right here. Should be directed to do this. Firm hours, directed to cease providing misinformation that voters cannot request these ballots, right? Whatever. So misinformation, that's a Democratic term now. The board should also be directed to remain open, denying relief, issue an injunction. That's going to benefit us. And so there were other things. Overflow lines. Says the board shall aggregate all mail-in ballots received after the poll book deadline. The court should declare all voters who applied for mail-in ballots shall be permitted to vote on voting machines as if they had canceled their mail-in ballot application, right? So you study these things, you start to, okay, where are the little margins where are the little rules being shifted, and the Democrats can come in and take charge. Enter an injunction is what they're asking for. Release the names of the 1,800 ballots that have now been lost so that people can know, right? That's why we want to release the names, is so people go, oh, my name's on that list. My ballot got lost by our very, very efficient USPS. Release the names of all voters for whom the board has reason to believe did not get their ballots. Declare that all voters who applied for mail-in ballots but did not submit a ballot shall be permitted to cancel the ballot. And is that overbroad, right? Is that going to allow more people than those who were impacted by these things to come in and give the Democrats an opening? Those are the issues that we're looking for. Provide for overnight ballot delivery for out-of-state residents. See that? Out-of-state residents, so everybody can just pile their mail-in ballots in. Ensure an adequate number of provisional ballots are around. Provide that 30 blank request to cancel my ballot request forms are available at each district. Segregate all mail-in ballots. Democrats are in charge. Following election day, allow observers. And all they need is the court to come back out and just say, sure, Democrats, you got that. You got that one. You got that one. You got that one. And they want money for their attorney's fees. And they want all voters who requested a mail-in ballot to appear in person and vote in day, right? So some of those things you might say are good solutions. Others you might say those are overbroad, that give a power and benefit to the Democratic Party. But they're on it. And if our government really is losing 1,800 ballots here that we've identified in this one small microcosm, this is a giant election. 1,800 ballots is probably just the tip of the iceberg. The situation, though, means that they'll never admit it. And if Jena Griswold is poking around Colorado and she finds a problem in her machines, do you think she's going to come out and say, no, we cannot do our election? In any world, if the right decision, like legitimately, if it were to not conduct an election right now, do you think Jena Griswold would ever come out and make that happen? Never. Doesn't matter how bad it was. They're doing the election. In fact, the worse it is, the better it is for them. So that is what is currently pending in Pennsylvania. Republicans are, actually, these are Democrats who are suing to figure out where these ballots went. Our U.S. Postal Service trying to figure that out as well. Now, elsewhere, remember that in Virginia, they got sued by the Biden DOJ because they got rid of non-citizens from the voter rolls who declared themselves to be non-citizens. They did a very detailed check. They identified, of about 1,600 people, they identified, I believe it was 3 who actually had become naturalized. And so they got their, placed back on the registrations, got their ballots, and were already planning on voting. And we already identified those people and it was all situated. But the other people who were booted off the rolls because they're non-citizens confirmed they were non-citizens. There were multiple checks. They got at least 2 notices that they were going to be deregistered, and they were removed. Then the courts told them to put them back on in one of the most insane flubs in legal election law. They said, put non-citizens back on, send them essentially an apology note, and make sure that they know that your removal of them was a mistake. What? Really weird. I thought I can't vote. Well, you're going to get a ballot anyways, but if you fill it out, it's a felony. But you are still on the registration list for some reason. Anyways, Supreme Court put a stop to it. And now Glenn Youngkin is celebrating that. And it's been an inspiration because we'll go back to Pennsylvania. They are knocking on the Supreme Court's door. You see this is happening right now. We'll take a look at that petition and the application for a stay. But this is what Glenn Youngkin said after the Supreme Court victory earlier this week.
The Supreme Court decision.
Well, Brett, it's a big win for common sense and for the Constitution. I'm, of course, very pleased with the Supreme Court's ruling. And it affirms the fact that the process we're going through, in fact, isn't a purge. This is a process that we've been using for 18 years. When someone walks into a DMV, they identify themselves as a non-citizen. They have ended up on our voting rolls either by happenstance or by purpose. We go through a very clear process. You get a notice, you get 14 days to affirm you're a citizen. And if you don't, you come off the voter rolls. And of course, in Virginia, we have the ultimate fail-safe that you can same-day register and cast a provisional ballot. So everyone who is a U.S. citizen in Virginia can vote. And I encourage everybody, go vote. But this is a win for common sense and a win for the Constitution today.
You've right on. Yeah, it was a good call. We don't want non-citizens voting, and we want our elections managed appropriately. And we're going to the Supreme Court again to get their take on what's happening. In the Supreme Court of the United States, an emergency application for a stay coming up from Pennsylvania. They say the underlying courts have made a mistake and they ask for a stay and a writ of certiorari granted, meaning the Supreme Court, they want them to hear this case. And so we'll go through this because it's out of Pennsylvania. Some people say it's the Keystone State. It is the state that we need to win, and actually both sides need to win in order to win the election. The most important state maybe coming up. And so this is a battle over how the election will be conducted and how the votes will be counted. And you can see this one is going up to the Honorable Samuel Alito, excellent judge on the Supreme Court, as he oversees the Third Circuit coming out of Pennsylvania. They say, all right, weeks after mail voting began in Pennsylvania, Supreme Court judges, and less than 2 weeks before Election Day, a sharply divided 4-3 Pennsylvania Supreme Court, their highest court, left and departed from the plain terms of the election code law and dramatically changed the rules governing the mail-in voting. And the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania did so right in the middle of a general election in which millions of Pennsylvanians have already voted. Now let's talk about the law. The law says a provisional ballot shall not be counted if the mail ballot is timely received by county board of elections. A provisional ballot by a county board of elections. Well, that's interesting. Could not be clearer. A provisional ballot shall not be counted if the elector's mail ballot is timely received by a county board of elections. But it is timely received. All right. Undeterred, the majority below held that election officials must count a provisional ballot cast by an individual whose mail ballot was timely received, but could not be counted because it violated a mandatory rule, such as a lack of a signature, date, or secrecy envelope. This holding effectively creates a cure process for mail ballot issues, errors, a process everyone agrees the General Assembly has deliberately chosen not to create. All right, so this should say not, right? Is not, if the elector's mail-in ballot is not, right? Shouldn't that say not right there? Is what I'm trying to determine, because otherwise, is that right? We're just doing a quick search. Anybody see what I'm seeing there? A provisional, let's see. Let's see. Okay, it says it shall not be counted in these situations. Let's see. Yeah, so I think what they're doing here is they're kind of mashing together two different statutes. So here is the code. Yeah, okay. A provisional ballot shall not be counted if, no, it's right, the elector's absentee ballot or mail-in ballot is timely received by a county board of elections. All right, so it's right. It's right in there. And then there are other rules. The exceptions shall apply. All right, so let's see what it says. So as Justice Mundy explained in the dissent, the majority's ruling usurps the General Assembly's plenary authority to direct the manner for appointing electors. As the three dissenters recognize, the election code is clear. And so this court bears the responsibility of ensuring the state courts do not unconstitutionally intrude upon the role specifically reserved for the legislature. So it's saying that basically the county board, I guess, it's not about the timing, it's about the party. So by any standard, however deferential, that line has been crossed here. When the legislature says that certain ballots can never be counted, okay, at all, it says you cannot count them, even if they're timely received. A state court cannot blue pencil that clear command into always. Like it says, if it's timely, you're not counting it. And here, the General Assembly could not have been clearer. As the court explained in 2020 when it rejected the same arguments, our General Assembly, in clear and unmistakable language, dictated that in circumstances like this case, the provisional ballot shall not be counted. Like they said, you're not counting it, even if it is something that's come in on time. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court also made a mistake in changing rules governing mail voting in federal elections after mail voting commenced less than 2 weeks before Election Day. The Purcell principle, right, which is the one that we talked about that says you cannot interfere in a state election if you're a federal court when you're close to an election. Not to mention common sense says that when an election is close at hand, the rules of the road should be clear and settled. Whenever the temporal line, barring last-minute judicial rule changes, lies wherever it lies, this ruling below plainly crossed it. Nor is this a case where the court's intervention would somehow itself sow confusion or trigger remedial issues. No, in fact, to the contrary, a stay here would prevent the chaos because we've already said you cannot count those votes. This court should enter a stay. This is a case of paramount public importance, potentially affecting tens of thousands of votes in Pennsylvania that could lead to decisive control of the Senate or the presidential election. Whether that crucial election will be conducted under the rules set by the legislature or under the whims of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is an important constitutional question. And if this Supreme Court fails to act, this is an egregious judicial usurpation of the legislature. Like the legislature, I don't know why they said that, but they did say it. Didn't even make sense to us. Wait a minute, if they get it on time, okay, but I guess it's the county board. They don't want to get those ballots. It's got to go somewhere else. Applicants thus respectfully request the court enter a stay pending disposition of this case. Given that provisional ballots may be canvassed starting on election day, time is of the essence. Applicants request that this court expedite its decision on this application. In particular, we request the court, as of yesterday, set a deadline, and that was met. So now we're waiting for Alito to decide and the court to decide. If the court determines a full stay is not warranted, then we ask that you order that provisional ballots cast by individuals whose ballots were timely received but invalid be segregated from all other ballots, and if counted, be tallied separately and not included in the official total. So if you're not going to pause this, then make them separate it. This court took the steps in 2020 to prevent mootness in another case in our state, and as that previous experience concerns, this is not going to prejudice anybody if you just make them separate this out. So let's look at some background on this. Now, in 2019, as part of an important bipartisan compromise, the General Assembly amended the election code to permit all Pennsylvanians to vote by mail without any excuse. Now, as part of the compromise, which was protected with an absolute non-severability clause, the bill also included certain rules that Pennsylvanians voting by mail must follow to have their ballots counted. And here, voters who cast mail ballots must seal them with a secrecy envelope, which protects privacy. Secrecy envelopes are then placed within mailing envelopes, bearing a declaration that voters must sign and date. All agree that these things, the envelope, the signature, and the date requirements are mandatory. If you fail to comply, your ballot is invalid and it is ineligible. Those are the rules. They set those rules. Back in 2019, the legislature and others, it was a compromise, right? See how this stuff happens? They negotiate, they come to a deal. Now, all agree, too, that the election code does permit Pennsylvanians to cast provisional ballots on election day. And so a provisional ballot is like it's not your real ballot. It's you got mailed a ballot, you lost it. Well, you already have a ballot out there, so we have to make sure we're not counting that ballot and your new ballot. It's like you show up on election day. Hey, we already mailed you a ballot. We're not giving you another one. Well, okay, I need to vote. I don't have that. Okay, well, we'll give you a provisional. We'll only count the provisional if we need to, and in the event we can confirm your other ballot hasn't also already been received. So it's like a makeup Plan B ballot kind of a thing. For example, an in-person voter who is unable to produce the required ID at the polling place or whose registration cannot be verified may cast a provisional ballot. Likewise, for a voter who requests a mail ballot who is not shown on the district register as having voted, which occurs when the voter never returned their mail ballot package to the board. Now, the election code, however, unambiguously directs a provisional ballot shall not be counted if the elector's absentee ballot or mail-in ballot is timely received by a county board of elections. There it is again. If it is timely received. You want to think that if it is not timely received. No, it is. You're not allowed to count them. Like it's unambiguous. Respondents and others reside in Butler County. They submitted mail-in ballots. They failed to enclose their ballots in secrecy envelopes. Instead, they just put their ballots right in the mail. So then, upon receipt, the board did not know that Gensler and Mattis had failed to use the secrecy envelopes because in accordance with the election code, it does not open the mailing envelopes until election day. But the board weighed the mailing envelopes and reached a tentative determination that they didn't use the envelopes. The board then logged the receipt of the ballots in the system called SURE and entered a code indicating the determination that no secrecy envelope was present. So here's the stuff where they just put them back in. SURE then sent Gensler and Mattis emails informing them that their ballots might not be counted because they missed the envelope. Now, if the board had subsequently opened the envelopes and found that they were present, it would have counted the ballots. But they didn't wait for the board's determination. Instead, they cast provisional ballots during in-person voting on Election Day. Now, the board, however, did not count those ballots because it's well settled that provisional ballots cast by individuals whose mail ballots had been timely received cannot be counted. That's the example. Even if the mail ballots were invalid. And so the Commonwealth held that in 2020. So then, after the board informed them that their provisional ballots were not counted, they sued. What do you mean? They argued the election code obligated them to count their provisional ballots. Then applicants intervened to defend the board's decision, and the Democratic Party moved to intervene. So now they got two ballots that are out there. Okay, they got a mail ballot, and I'm guessing this is all orchestrated, right? They looking for these situations. So they get a mail ballot, then they go and they vote in person, and they're saying the in-person vote should count. And they didn't do that. So Democrats sue. What? You're disenfranchising us. You already got a ballot. It's in your mailbox. I don't have it, so I have a right to vote. The trial court rejected their arguments, saying the election code unambiguously prohibits individuals who submit mail ballots that are timely received by election boards from having their provisionals counted. Commonwealth reversed, declined to follow the rule. Instead, it deemed the election code ambiguous. The court just came in, kind of changed it, and reversed. Then the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania affirmed that on different grounds. The majority said the election code prohibits counting a provisional ballot if the ballot is timely received by a county board. But it explained that a prior decision had referred to mail ballots without secrecy envelopes as void. It then relied on the definition of the word void, a term that never appears in any provision of the election code, to conclude that mail ballots without secrecy envelopes never existed as a matter of law. So the courts just said, well, we don't really care about envelopes. Thus, the majority said that the mail ballots without secrecy envelopes were never received in the first place. And so you can see this mental gymnastics that this judge went through. That issue is true of all other ballots that violate the mandatory rules, like those without valid signatures or dates, all because these ballots are never, quote, received. And anyone can cure this. So other judges dissented in that opinion because their mail ballots were indisputably received by the board by the deadline. The election code prohibits their provisional ballots from counting. It's a policy choice, and so you don't get to reverse it. And the justices criticized the original decision there. Now, although Butler County Board of Elections is the only county board that is a party to the ruling, other 66 county boards are expected to adhere to the Pennsylvania rules. And they issued guidance to mandate they do so. And so we're now here. Election day is right around the corner. And apparently, if the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling remains in place, county boards will be forced to ignore the election code, which says do not accept them, and count provisional ballots cast on election day by those who submitted defective mail-in ballots. So I guess there's going to be questions about whether they're double counted. Now, county boards may start counting provisional ballots on election day as it stands right now. And so you should grant this, Your Honors. This court will grant a stay if it's likely that 4 of you will agree with us and will win in a victory. A stay is warranted because they're violating the Purcell principle alone. Here, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court dramatically upended the rules. They established a cure process for all mail-in ballot errors after mail-in started and less than 2 weeks before the election occurred. So all of this should be stayed. The majority decision should restore the status quo. A stay is warranted also because you're going to grant cert and you're going to find in our favor. Under any standard, their interpretation of the election code is not even remotely plausible. In fact, they've interpreted it to be the opposite of what it actually says. This question is tremendously important. In recent Pennsylvania elections, tens of thousands of ballots have been rejected for violating the rules, and now they'll all count. And voters got no mulligan in those elections. In 2020, under the General Assembly's plain directive, about 1% of returned mail ballots were not counted because of secrecy envelopes. That's a big number. Rejection rates for missing signatures and dates have varied, but each type of error could disqualify over 10,000 ballots. Now, thanks to the Supreme Court's decision, those individuals get a redo. They get a provisional ballot. They can just show up there and vote again. Because Pennsylvanians voting by mail already get notice of mail-in ballot errors, tens of thousands of provisional ballots that are flatly illegal under the code are likely to be counted. That outcome risks tainting or even flipping the result of the election in Pennsylvania, including the state, including the Senate race, and others. This is unacceptable, Supreme Court. Now, furthermore, failing to correct this would send a strong message that the electors clause is toothless and state courts can do whatever they want. Equitable considerations also favor a stay. Public interest favors a stay because we want fair elections. And finally, at a minimum, the court should order that provisional ballots cast by individuals whose mail ballots were timely received but defective be segregated from all other ballots and not included in the official vote tally. Court already took that step to prevent a similar case from becoming moot. And so all of this is going up to the United States Supreme Court. You can see a lot more details here in this brief, and it's being sent in there by John M. Gore out of Washington, D.C., the Gallagher firm out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and more. So going up to the Supreme Court, we'll see what they say about it. A bunch of other people have submitted briefs here, including the American Center for Law and Justice, Pennsylvania county officials, former government officials, Democratic parties involved. And so we'll keep our eye on it. We'll see what the Supreme Court does. They granted relief in Virginia. Hopefully they do the same in Pennsylvania, because the courts should not be allowed to interpret a statute in the exact opposite manner in which it was written, as they're trying to do here. But that's how they stole it in 2020. They're working hard again this time. We'll be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Thanks for subscribing, sharing our channel, and joining us as we do. We'll see you back here on the next one. Now, we're not done yet. We've got more to talk about before we jump into your comments and hear what you have to say about this. But let's talk about Jena, shall we? Things get even worse for Jena Griswold. Now we know that those passwords were on the internet for a lot longer than we thought, months, and they'd been online when she knew that they were problematic, and she just left them up there for a little while. Not good. Now the Republicans out of Colorado are demanding that she resign, calling for a nice resignation letter from her, which of course will never happen. And there's a new affidavit out that shows us what actually went down with the technical problems there in Colorado. But here is Marshall Zillinger, who broke the story that we covered yesterday about these passwords. Of course, it was really the Republican GOP in Colorado who put out an email blast saying passwords are public now, that really lit the whole thing off. But here's what he says. For 5 days, Colorado's Secretary of State knew passwords to voting machines had been visible online before having any of them changed. Okay, so it was a free-for-all. Some passwords are still active and not all have been changed. I'll be updating my reporting on this tonight, says Marshall Zillinger, and he has, of course, done that. Says we're 6 days away from the most important election in our lifetime, and there was another interesting story over there. But you remember Kyle Clark was the individual yesterday who laced into Jena Griswold and asked her to resign, or if she was considering it, to her face. And of course, she said no, but she should, because look at this incompetence. This was an affidavit that I found reposted over here from John Cremens. What's up, John? And it's been shared by others. And here you can see it looks like it's redacted, but it says, I, so-and-so, declare under oath that the following facts are true. And this is somebody who is blowing the whistle on the discovery of these passwords. He says, I'm over the age of 18, competent in all respects to make this affidavit, and says, On 3 occasions in 2024, on August 8th, October 16th, and October 23rd, I have accessed through the internet the Colorado Secretary of State website called coloradosos.gov and clicked on their voting systems webpage and have used a link which is no longer available on that page, but which was previously available through at least October 23rd of this year to download a Microsoft Excel file weighing in at 562 kilobytes named voting system inventory.xlsx, the more modern version of the Excel spreadsheet. The voting system inventory.xlsx file, upon downloading and opening with the Microsoft Excel application, contains one visible worksheet named inventory, listing voting system components by county, showing one row for each component and columns listed serial number, county, model, vendor, remarks, inactive, firmware, software version. Nice little spreadsheet, bunch of boring numbers. The same Excel file, upon right-clicking the Worksheet tab, section of the main screen and selecting Unhide, advanced hacking technology there, opens a dialog box where the application user can select from one, several, or all 4 listed hidden worksheets contained in the file. The 4 hidden worksheets are named Clean Formulas, Old Equipment Database, Old_working, and Old_ICKS. Upon unhiding and viewing those previously hidden worksheets, 3 of the 4 worksheets, all of them but Old_ICXs, appear to list basic input-output system passwords for some listed components. BIOS passwords. In the worksheets, Clean_formulas and Old_equipment database, those passwords are shown in a column titled BIOS password. And those passwords can again be associated with specific components in specific counties by the data for each row in the columns, which are entitled serial number, county, model, vendor, and device type. Uh-oh. The Clean Formulas worksheet lists BIOS passwords for over 700 individual voting system components in 63 Colorado counties. The only county for which no voting system BIOS password listed is Los Animas County, which will probably go 99% for Trump. Watch. Comparison of values if the serial number columns of the inventory and Clean Formulas worksheets indicates that the Clean Formulas worksheets list BIOS passwords for voting system components that are currently in use in at least 10 of Colorado's 12 largest counties by population. Oh, Jena, you're kidding. Are you serious? 63 counties? 700 individual voting systems? That's a lot. It's a lot of election problems. And I remember from the reporting, you said other election problems were worthy of pulling machines out of service and investigating them and all of that stuff. But are you going to do that right now? No, obviously she's not. So things are getting bad there. You can see that even the Republicans, Colorado House Republicans, are now asking that she resign. Says they're calling for Griswold, Crazy Eyes, to resign following a serious breach of election security protocols. Her office's recent posting of the passwords online has raised significant concerns about the accountability of our voting system. And they published this press release telling us the following, saying, look, all right, Jena, listen up. This is the Republican Party of Colorado speaking. In response to a serious breach of voting system security protocols by Jena, which posted critical election equipment passwords online, Colorado House Republicans are now issuing the following statement. Minority Leader Pugliese said, Secretary of State Jena Griswold's reckless disregard for professional standards and consistent lack of transparency has threatened trust in our democratic system. It's true. She's basically an insurrectionist. by causing doubt in the security of our election process. Her office has mailed postcards to 30,000 non-citizens, illegally encouraging them to register to vote, falsely informed other voters that they had not voted when they already had, so they vote again, and it now has disclosed election system passwords on the internet. Whew, man, what a disaster. Pugliese said, "Well, I have the utmost trust in the integrity of our county clerks, who actually oversee the counting of the votes. I have no trust in Secretary Crazy Eyes, that she's capable of leading our election system. Enough of her incompetence. It is time for her to resign." The people of Colorado deserve better. Now, Assistant Minority Leader Ty Winter said the same. He said the House Republicans are committed to ensuring accountability in our election processes. This recent breach from Jena highlights the critical need for public transparency and oversight to protect the integrity of our voting system and to restore public trust. Now, Coloradans deserve leaders who will safeguard our elections, and we urge every voter to turn out, baby, and help us bring balance and responsible governance back to Colorado. So, Republican Party jumping on it, as they should. I mean, it's just a disaster over there. And now their passwords are public. She said, well, you need the other key. Okay, well, where was the other password being stored? In a Word doc somewhere? On your Facebook page? Where was it? Anyone know? No real questions about that. No idea whether people have access to both keys so they can't access the machines. Haven't changed the passwords on all of them yet. And even if she is going around, now they've got people fiddling with the machines, which were supposed to be all set and fixed so that people could use them, so that we could test them and verify them without having people manipulating the knobs and resetting BIOS passwords, which are allowing you to access the root of the machine. Understand? So, not ideal. And she should go. And she is doing a terrible job. She's not alone. Other problems are happening elsewhere. She's just one of the worst. In fact, the FBI is now investigating the Dropbox fires that were taking place in Washington. They are looking into that incendiary device that was dropped next to the Portland box. There was a fire suppression unit built in there that nuked the fire before it got bad. And a communications specialist said another Dropbox was also equipped with fire suppression, but it did not work as it should have. Wow. So 488 damaged ballots they've identified. 345 of those voters had already contacted them to request a replacement ballot. They said, no, we dropped our ballots in there. That's my box. Election staff will mail 143 ballots and they'll get more people to vote. They were unable to identify 6 ballots. Other ballots may have been completely burned to ash and therefore unidentifiable. Someone said, I appreciate everyone's understanding. Election workers updated their retrieval schedules. Now they're going to pick up ballots before 5:30 every day rather than leaving them in there for a while. In addition, the county said via email that employees now serve as ballot box observers 24 hours a day. So they're actually watching them now. Now, according to the New York Times, the incendiary devices found at the Vancouver and the Portland Dropbox arson sites were marked with the words, "Free Gaza." What? Elsewhere, votes were coming in. So we're really seeing steady returns here in King County thus far. And they're collecting hundreds of thousands of ballots. Everything is pouring in. In fact, so many ballots are pouring in. This woman got 16 of them, and she's not 16 people. Here is the report over from Washington.
Saya says she went down to check her mailbox.
There was about 9 voter registration ballots that were not mine. So I thought that was strange.
Yeah.
So I ended up returning them to the post office here.
But to her surprise,
Again last night.
there was another stack in there. This time 7 different ballots.
Long name Muhammad. Last name Mustafa.
She only lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Most of the ballots are addressed to different last names, but all have one thing in common: her unit number.
Management said no one's lived here for 3 months.
Maybe the
that's
people who were
Mufasa.
registered at her apartment before didn't update their address through USPS when they moved. But still, Visaya wonders,
Why didn't I get all of their other mail forwarded here, or junk mail, or anything like that?
Because they're
we
fake.
got her on a
That's why.
call with King County Elections Chief of Staff Kendall Hodson.
In 30 years of voting, I've never had that many ballots that don't belong to me, you know?
She told King 5 they have daily calls with the USPS, so they're planning on raising this issue to them.
Would you be all right with our folks coming to pick them up from you? That's going to be probably the easiest way for us to sort it out.
Hodson also told us, quote, even if someone gets a second ballot or more, whether under their name or someone else's, we'll only ever count one ballot per registered voter with their matching signature.
Are you going to make sure that it gets expedited to the recipients?
We need to get them a replacement ballot. We'll get that out. If we need to, update their registration to a different address, we'll do that as well.
Time is of the essence here. For those mailing a ballot in, the Secretary of State's office recommends you get it in the mail.
16 ballots, bunch of foreign names. She has no idea who they are, all coming to her hand over fist. So here's another one. We've got another report from this fella on X, Darth Call. Shared, just voted in California, got dirty looks by the organizers when I asked if I needed to show my ID. You need to see this? If you wanted to vote red, blue, or red for Trump, you had to click an extra button to even select the candidates on the Republican ticket. You had to click more to do so. So here's what that looks like. And if you're in California, you have to let us know if you're seeing this. Here's apparently a picture from the screen. Kamala Harris, number 1, RFK, who's not even running, Chase Oliver, and then Jill Stein. More for Trump. So if you're seeing that, of course, let us know. Because anybody who has done even a landing page, an email, you put stuff on top if you want people to see it and click it. You bury it under the fold. You make people click extra buttons to go vote for your opponent. And I don't know if it's rotating this, right? If the next voter gets a different screen, if it's randomized or what. But you put it below the fold when you want to hide it. No one clicks the read more, okay? Everybody just reads the headline and moves on. I mean, I read more all the time. I actually hate that stupid button. But you get the point. So that's happening. Of course, the secretaries are going to continue to move the knobs around the margins where they can to finagle a victory for the Democrats. We'll be here continuing to cover it. All right. And so we got Rogan also that we're talking about. And my understanding is JD Vance and Rogan just came out, which will probably be an amazing one. So we'll want to keep our eye on that one. But here's an interesting story. Congress is now investigating YouTube and Google for censoring the Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview that was not able to be found on YouTube search engine for a while, even though Google, is pretty good with searches. They're kind of the best at the world, or were before they wrecked their business. You're supposed to search for something using their services and find information about it. But now trying to find Trump and Rogan, it was difficult until there was enough outrage about it. Then YouTube restored the functionality. But Jim Jordan is sending a letter over to Google. He says, we demand answers on why YouTube suppressed the interview. It raises concerns also about the New York Times hit piece on election misinformation, which we've talked about here. They're going after Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson and Benny Johnson and Zero Hedge. And I think Tim Pool got hit. We didn't get anything, but it's good. Anyways, so Jordan wants to know, what is the media doing? Why are they censoring everything? And Jordan sent a letter over to the CEO of Google. And here is what it sounds like. All right, Mr. Sundar, CEO of Google, the Committee on the Judiciary from Congress is continuing to conduct oversight on how Biden and Harris have coerced and colluded with social media companies to censor free and lawful speech in America. Now, as part of our oversight, we've obtained documents showing that Harris successfully pressured YouTube, which is a subsidiary of Alphabet Google, to censor certain content including content that didn't even violate YouTube's policies. Now, YouTube appears to have censored a video of Joe Rogan's recent interview with President Trump, and we write to seek an immediate briefing on this. Why did YouTube decide to censor Joe Rogan's interview with Trump? And why is Google's search elevation of material critical of the interview happening? And I think I know what they're talking about here. So they didn't give us a footnote on that one. But one post, let's see if they talk about it. One post that, for example, came out that was elevated on Google search was from the Arizona Republic that I saw. And their headline was, the Trump-Rogan interview was 3 hours of wasted garbage, wasted breath, something like that. So that was ranked to the top. So you type Rogan Trump interview. It's not the video of Trump and Rogan doing an interview. It's the Arizona Republic saying it was 3 hours and a waste of time. Great. So on October 25th, Joe Rogan posted his interview with Trump on his YouTube channel, quickly accumulating tens of millions of views. However, just 3 days later, YouTube users reported difficulty searching for the video, and I tried it, couldn't find it. You can find all the clips. News coverage and even screen shares, video recordings show that searches on YouTube using the terms Joe Rogan Trump or Joe Rogan Donald Trump did not even bring up the Friday 3-hour sit-down at the top of the results. The interview was also absent from YouTube's trending page on Monday, which conservative channels never go there. Rather, when users searched for the video, they were reportedly fed with results from traditional media outlets like The Hill, MSNBC, Fox News, and YouTube has fixed their news problem since 2020. Now, if you notice, if you search for anything news related, it bubbles up what they call authoritative sources. They posted many blog posts about this, that they only will bubble authoritative sources so that they can fight against disinformation, which is channels like they say ours are. We've already got multiple strikes for many different things. And I know I whine about this a lot, but it's true. And we were very effective back in 2020. If you were here in 2020, we had some live streams during the election that popped off, 15, 20,000 people live because they would boost us back then. Then after that, we started to see authoritative sources after January 6th, really authoritative sources, and everything changed. And now if you look for news stuff, you even search on YouTube, they bundle it up at the top. They bundle what they want you to search for. They give you like these little series of videos, and they're all 2-minute clips from a bunch of local news sources, which all copy and paste from each other. And they'd rather send the views to their friends in the mainstream media, the same corporate conglomerate that they are, right? YouTube used to be kind of a thing for you. Now it's not. Now it's a corporate affair for big Hollywood, big music, big news, big pharma, just like the rest of them. But they bundle it up for you, so you cannot see anyone else. If you're an independent creator, you're just kind of lost under the shuffle. So now what's insane about that, like if they can do that to Rogan, and they are doing it to Rogan, they're actively doing it to Rogan, think about everyone else, the little fellas, right? The small little peons like your boy here, and what they do to our channel and other channels like ours. And the coverage of the interview. Similarly, Google search results and the interview also reportedly populated them with anti-Trump results. And so in response, YouTube released a statement acknowledging the censorship of the interview of Rogan and Trump. They said, quote, for some searches on Monday, the original 3-hour interview didn't appear prominently. Short excerpts uploaded by the Rogan channel appeared, but we know it was frustrating for users looking to find the full video. Says Google. They know how to search and return results. YouTube added that it was, quote, working to resolve this, and viewers will be seeing the full podcast in more search results soon. Okay, thanks. So clearly something happened there behind the scenes. And you might have said that it was maybe a left-wing attack. Maybe they all came and were jumping on his podcast to report it or something, and it was getting flagged as spammy or something. And so there's some algorithm behind the scenes. Like, you can give YouTube the benefit of the doubt if you want. I don't, because we've been victims of this for a long time, and we know exactly what they're doing. Oh, you're going to work hard to fix it 3 days after the fact? You got to get your interviews while they're hot, okay? They know they're hot. You want to eat it right after it comes out of the oven. and then they just set it out on the table for it to get cold. Additionally, October 28th, a New York Times reporter privately reached out to several conservative political commentators, we made a video on this one, asking for a comment on an upcoming Time story about a pseudo-analysis conducted by Media Matters. Remember, Tucker posted about this, Shapiro posted about it, saying that we're investigating you for election misinformation, and we're going to try to write a story to demonetize your entire channel and go after your livelihood because we hate you. The reporter also asked multiple conservative political commentators whether they're members of the YouTube Partner Program. That's how we make money from YouTube, and want to throw them out of it. And if so, how frequently YouTube demonetized your videos so they can go pressure YouTube. Oh, well, how come you're not taking their money away? Given Media Matters and their direct partisan ties and history of misleading allegation for politics, it appears that the political actors would use the Times story to pressure YouTube to censor conservative speech and to demonetize conservatives. Americans deserve access to political speech, especially in the closing weeks before an election. Given the company's recent history of censorship, including at the behest of Biden, YouTube's censorship of Trump is particularly troubling. Therefore, we, Google, request an immediate briefing about YouTube's censorship of Joe Rogan. Featuring his interview with President Trump, we also want to know why Google was elevating anti-Trump stories about the interview. For example, and for the briefing, we ask Alphabet to answer the following questions soon. First, who at Alphabet is responsible for Joe Rogan's interview not appearing in the top search? Please answer that question. Who did that? How did executives at Alphabet learn that the video featuring Rogan and Trump was unable to be viewed in the top of the results? Why was this video unable to be viewed? Was this censorship done by automated systems, or was Liz Cheney over there flipping the knobs? For how long has this issue been in effect? During this time, how many Americans search YouTube? Yeah, a lot. Which teams or divisions within YouTube are responsible for determining this? Which teams were responsible for correcting this? Has YouTube prevented any other video featuring an interview with Trump from being viewed in search results? If so, which ones? What protections does YouTube provide for free speech that is explicitly political? Great question. Not much. Why did those protections not apply here? How can the American people be confident that a similar issue is not going to happen again? You can't. What communications did YouTube have with Harris regarding Joe Rogan? Why is Google elevating negative stories about the interview in its search results? What steps, if any, has Google taken to correct its elevation of stories that are negative towards Trump? None. Did Google have any correspondence or communication with Biden or Harris before elevating these things? And has YouTube had any correspondence with anyone in the Biden administration related to election misinformation? Please let us know. Arrange for this briefing as soon as possible, but no later than November 13th after the election. In addition, we're authorized to investigate more things. Sincerely, your friend, Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee to Google, the CEO. And we'll see if that briefing and that hearing actually happens. But this is a very powerful vector for the Democrats. They used to have all of the different weapons out there. They no longer have X, but they still have YouTube. They use it effectively. They still have the Facebook platforms and all of their various companies. It's a full-on digital battle as much as any other battle. And so we're hopeful that they can get some answers on this, but we saw it happen in real time. They don't want positive information to be elevated. And the FBI was involved in this back in 2020. Why wouldn't they be involved in it now? They are. The Supreme Court has stayed anything stopping them from continuing it. So my guess is they're being a lot more careful about it this time, but there still is pressure from our own government to censor certain things. And then the big tech companies just use it as an excuse to do it. And they're doing it. But we're grateful that you're here and you're sharing these videos so we can break through the bubble of this censorship. All right, we've got one more quick story. So we're working on meeting with this woman or having her come on the channel and talk about exactly this story. But let me just give you a preview on this, because the Apprentice alumni were in the middle of the election, including a season winner, are now supporting Trump in the election's closing days. And so 11 alumni have issued a letter in response to another letter. And we're going to go through this, not here today, but this is from the anti-Trump Apprentice crew. They say our close experiences with Trump reveal that he's an erratic leader with a fragile ego. Whoa. All right, so all these people who Trump helped make relevant, all of these people signed a letter. And so the other side of the Apprentice crew is responding. The letter was spearheaded by Kendra Todd, won season 3, said the signers felt compelled to respond to the Harris letter after their fellow contestants claimed to have spoken to dozens of their fellow contestants to confirm they shared the observation of Trump. They said it's disappointing and shameful that these contestants would use the platform to attack him. Is this the thanks he gets for literally changing the trajectory of their lives? Ungrateful people, man. Happens all the time. You would be surprised. Todd, now a real estate broker, says what bothered me the most with how they claimed that they spoke with dozens of us former contestants. And I simply just do not believe that to be true. And so the letter supporting Harris was released. We're going to get our hands on the letter from Kendra and see what the response is. And then our goal is to have Kendra come on and speak with us and share her take on the letter. So we're working on that. May do that tomorrow, may do that Saturday or soon. I'll see what her schedule is, but that's coming up, my friends. And so we're excited about that and excited to hear from you. Let's see what you have to say about this. And if you're just joining us, the reason for the early show is because we're wrapping up early today. We're going to head on out to Glendale, Arizona. Tucker and Trump are going to be in the town making Arizona great again as we keep our energy levels at peak maximum potential as the election is just 4 days away. We're excited for that. So, my friends, if you're just joining us, we talked some good Pennsylvania stuff. Apparently 10 to 20,000 missing mail-in ballots or votes not gone out. 1,800 lost ballots by the U.S. Postal Service. Not good there in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is appealing to the Supreme Court of the United States. So we're waiting on a decision from Judge Alito and the rest of the court on that. So we're going to keep our eyes peeled on that one. This is a big one too. So that's coming up soon. We also had an update on Crazy Eyes Griswold. The Republican Party is demanding she resign now because she's a terrible secretary and passwords have leaked on the internet. She knew they were on the internet, left them on the internet for a number of days, and is doing a terrible job. Joe Rogan and the censorship that his show has suffered at the hands of big tech, now under investigation from Congress. And we'll see what they're able to uncover and reveal, because it's obviously something that's happening not only to Rogan, but to many, many people out there. So now, my friends, it's time to hear from you, and let's see what you have to say about all of this. Thanks for supporting our work. Thanks for sending in the amazing donos and for being here on the early show. Let's see who's here. We got, what's up, Shane Sousa? What's up, Nacho Mama's in the house? We got See the Veil. Dan is here. We got 51K. What's going on, Spawn Dog? Very nice to see you. Here, we got some nice donos. Oh, here's one. From Spuds. What's up, Carrie B? Carrie B's clipping for us. Thank you, Carrie B, for clipping. Here's one from Spuds. He says, my neighbor does this display every Halloween, and he keeps adding on more. He even has the POTUS in the first photo. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. Happy Halloween, my friends. I forgot. Today is Halloween, isn't that right? That's right. It is Halloween. Okay. Happy Halloween, my friends. Hopefully you're doing something fun and enjoying yourselves. It's almost Friday, baby. So hold on there, my friends. Almost Friday. 1 day away. We're going to be there. We got this old guy says, okay, here's my case for mail-in voting. Would you prefer that someone who owes you money mail you a check or use a method of direct deposit like ACH or wire transfer? You've just made the perfect decision regarding mail-in voting. Yeah, it's a great question. Would you rather someone mail you a check or just deposit it into your account, the cash, via wire transfer? Which one? Would you be okay if someone mailed you cash? If you're just like, hey, can you just send that $1,800 via cash in the mail? Would you be okay with that? No, of course not. Why would votes be any different? It's a good point. NY, what's up, NY? I think this case is the only possible challenge to Pennsylvania results. There were a few problems, but they are miffed that the Dems have low turnout and enthusiasm. They're counting on Obama-level votes, and they're not getting them. I think you're right about that. They're not getting them. And I saw another article from Politico saying that turnout in various states with normal core constituencies is not looking good. Ollie, what's up? RCW got gifted a membo. Thank you, Ollie, for gifting one out. Another one, gifted limited edition, a new membo from Ollie. Thank you, Ollie. Hey, more here is here. And more here is here. More, says that kid. More. Here's one. Says Primo Avatar got gifted a membo. Citrina Strother, Hell Warden gifted a membo. Colin Landrum and J Mac gifted membos courtesy of More Here. Hey, Venus Gonzalez says, hit that like button and show Robert some love, my friends, and his great crew some big love. We got the best. Shout out. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your support, says Venus Gonzalez. Thank you. You're right about it. We do appreciate your support, Venus. Thanks for that. And yes, thanks for hitting the like button, my friends. I do appreciate it. NY says, why can't we just have a national rule on voting? 1 week of early voting up until Election Day, provisional ballots during that period for mistakes and slowpokes, mail-in has to be requested a month prior to election. There can be tracking of mail-in and it doesn't get to the Board of Elections by that week. That person needs to vote in person. The end. Well, the problem is then they start manipulating things to benefit Democrats and everybody has to follow those rules. And I think that's kind of the concern. You then have a centralized the concern is you have a centralized Jena Griswold, all right, who's like in charge of that. We have a Department of Federal Elections and Griswold gets in charge of it. And then everybody has to do what she says. Not good. Hey, Fred says, I live in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Lots of ballots had the secrecy and return envelopes were sealed shut. I got one like that and had to request another ballot. I received it and voted. Interesting. So I see, like, you got the packet, you opened it up, and both envelopes were already, like, you couldn't open those up. Like, they were sealed. Probably because you're a Trump voter. Hey, what's up? NY says, Google should really think twice considering its existence hangs in the balance with the Trump DOJ. Yeah, maybe they should think about that because they're engaged in a criminal conspiracy to manipulate election results. Hey, what's up, Tony? Hey, Munkets. Bringing in 5 membos. Lady Astrid is here. Joseph Quantanilla is here. Buttery Toast, Arctic Wolf, Spectrum Wiz, gifted membos courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Hey, SoCal. Thank you, SoCal. Says, great work, Rob. Thank you, SoCal. Thanks for being here. Glad we got to cover some of these things before the big event tonight. And my friends, thanks for those extremely generous and lovely donos. Appreciate you being here. Let's see. We got some comments on X that we may or may not have, if I can find it. There it is. Hey, what's up? Chandler says, I think it's alphabetical. So Trump is close to the bottom as well as Cornel West as how they dumped it on that thing. Miss Griswold says Dab should be in jail. Adele says Republican commentators have been put through so much in the past 10 years. They now seem to have amazing stamina, endurance, strength, and return harder than what comes their way. Impressive work by you, Carlson, Bannon, and so many more. Man, that's a nice list to put me on. I don't know about that. Impressive indeed. Says, I agree, man. I agree. It's like, you know, those guys, I mean, Bannon's been through the ringer. Tucker's been through the ringer. And I'm sure our time will come. But there's a reaction, right? There's an equal and opposite reaction. When you feel tyranny, when you feel your country stripping away, you have to rise to the occasion and show strength. It's almost an instinctual thing that's happening out there. And I think what you're seeing is not, it's not, you know, just content creators. I think it applies to everybody. I think a lot of people are experiencing this. A lot of people are, okay, enough already. I didn't want to get involved in politics, but I've got no choice now because things have gotten to the point where you can't sit around and be silent anymore. At least if you believe in something. Ben Tyndall says, how about we stop relying on the post office and get something right? Few days of early voting and a national holiday for an election so we can all just go vote. Seems much better than losing 1,800 ballots and then trying to not tell anybody about it. It's not ideal. Not ideal at all. Okay, and so my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for hanging with us and for supporting our work. A reminder, grab a shirt from our friends at the 2A Republic. They're shipping them out like crazy and they're doing great work. They're good friends, awesome dudes. They're on our team. And any profits from the Trump shirts, we're donating back to America PAC. Or maybe we'll split it between other PACs. But we're going to donate the Trump profits. So grab a shirt, get some election gear, and look amazing as we celebrate victory. So, my friends, we're going to pause. We're going to come back tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to be back on the regular schedule. Membo stream in the morning. Then we'll do the regular stream in the evening. We may have a guest tomorrow. We'll see how the schedules shake out. But until then, my friends, I hope you are having yourself a beautiful day. You're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to. And you join us as we come back here tomorrow. Locals, hang tight. We're going to come back for an after party and wrap things up in a quick second. But my friends, I want to thank you for joining us. We are coming back here tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends, and a beautiful day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. And Mr. Trump Train says, Rob, I finally paid my way. 11 months as a membo. Thank you, Mr. Trump Train, for being a membo. My friends, make it a great day. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.